All right, good morning, everybody. So here is our agenda. It is Tuesday, January 24th. I'm going to introduce to you a new program that I've learned recently. It's called Burlington English, and one of the lessons relates directly to the homework I gave everybody. And we're going to look at, whoops, lost it. Jumped a few, there we go. So we're going to look at vocabulary, some simple vocabulary most of you are quite probably familiar with. And we're going to begin with a little conversation about renting an apartment in the US versus other countries. So everyone here presumably has rented an apartment in another country, and I'd like to hear about the similarities, differences between doing this outside of the US versus inside of the US and your experiences. Then we'll go over some vocabulary. And then we will start to use the Burlington English activity and take a break. So after that, we'll go right into the homework, which dovetails this Burlington English exercise, Carlos and Hennessy's real estate scam. And if you've already listened to that story or read some of the article, it's very, very engaging and will be great for conversation both today and Thursday. So there will also be more vocabulary to learn for that. And then I will explain the homework, and that is the plan. So ready or not, let's get started. So here is some vocabulary and a concept called tenants' rights. I'm going to begin by asking everybody, what are tenants' rights? So you need to know what is a tenant and what are rights. Tenant is this vocabulary right there. Who could tell me what is a tenant?
Good morning, teacher.
Good morning, Anila. So
It's the renter, teacher.
the renter, exactly. So a tenant equals the renter. Beautiful. So before I go into all this vocabulary and all this pronunciation, I'm going to ask everybody a quick question. What are tenants' rights? Those of you who are renting, you have rights whether you know it or not. What are they?
Uh, the main thing I think, teacher, we have to rent every month, like on time.
Mm-hmm. That would be a responsibility. So let's say it is your responsibility to pay the rent on time, but let's say you are renting a home from Fatima, and the roof leaks. So every time it rains, your carpet is wet and it's cold. The heating is broken. The window doesn't lock, so you get robbed every so often.
So I think, teacher, it's the landlord rights they have to fix, like
Well, that
before getting
that's
into.
that's the landlord's responsibility.
Okay.
So your rights, you're paying. So you are paying, that is your responsibility. So if Anila is paying rent to Fatima, it is her responsibility to pay the rent on time. She can't say give half the money and say, oh, I'll get half, when I feel like it. That's a violation of the landlord's rights if you have a contract. But as the tenant, her rights are what?
Hmm.
She has
Right.
the. Mhm.
To clean something like there is roof not fixed, water coming. So the tenant rights they have to claim like say to landlord there is a lot of problems like the window is broken, so it's the tenant rights they can claim it.
What do you mean clean it?
Claim
CLEAN?
it like they can.
Claim.
Yes.
Okay. So Fatima, I just called your name. Um, are you a tenant?
Yes,
Have you ever had to ask your landlord to fix
yes,
something? Can you give us an
yes.
example?
Like a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
my heat is not working. I'm being cold, and my kids
Yeah.
too. Then I'm asked the owner to fix the heat. Then after like one day, he come to fix it.
Hey, that's perfect. That's perfect. Uh, Quick question for everybody. Is anyone else, this is very common, Boston's a cold place. Has anyone else had issues with heat? No heat? Raise your hand if this is an issue. Is anyone living without heat right now? So I'm asking everybody, Julia, Andres, Veronica, Gracie, does everybody here have heat right now?
We all live with heat now.
How do you know? Have you been to everybody's house? You'll
Because
be surprised. You'll be very surprised. Many students in the wintertime will say, teacher, I have no heat. So that's why I'm asking the question.
a lot of family has a problem with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yes. And yes, it's part of life. For many people who don't speak the language very well or don't want to have difficult conversations in English, they don't know their rights and they will freeze through the winter. Oh, well, here I am in America. It's cold. 3 months. Okay, maybe I won't die. So it's good to know your rights. So I'm serious.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. So yes, those are tenants' rights. If you pay rent, it's a contract. It's a contractual agreement. Your money is not only paying for the physical space to live in, it's the service, the upkeep. If something is broken, it needs to be fixed. And it works both ways. Landlords should receive their rent on time if they are if there is a contract, and that's generally how it works. But now I want to, before going into vocabulary, I want to ask a question, and I want to hear from everybody. What are some? Okay, what is it like renting an apartment in another country you have lived in? Similar? Different? For instance, do you have a lease? Who knows what is a lease?
It's like
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted you by accident. I'm so sorry.
no, that's okay.
I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
Go
Like
ahead.
a paper, you can know you can find your right there maybe, or you can.
It's the contract. Yeah. So
Yeah,
this
you
is the
can
first
try.
vocabulary. It's the lease is the contract between the landlord and the tenant.
Yes. And what
Now,
day you gonna be in an apartment, and what the last month you're gonna move.
Exactly. Now, many people cannot sign a lease. If you're undocumented, it's very difficult to get a lease. You might have to have what we call a handshake agreement. You're renting from somebody you know and you trust, and there's this relationship of trust. So who can begin by sharing their experience renting an apartment in another country, similar
Uh,
or different to America? Who
for
wants to
me,
begin? Fatima.
okay. For me in Morocco, it's
Mhm.
like some country like some city, big city is here like America. You can have a lease. You cannot go without signing the paper.
Mhm.
But small city, just you can go like if you want, if you know someone, it's gonna rent you. That's all. Yeah, but like the big city is different. You're gonna find the same like here in USA. But if
Okay.
you like, if you the difference between my country here, if you want something to fix in your house, you're gonna call the owner. In Morocco, no, you can fix it by by yourself.
Really? So you're on your
Yeah,
own. Okay.
yeah.
Is the rent a little bit cheaper if you're making your own
Y-
repairs?
cheaper. Depend of the city. Like yeah, in a big city, you can find expensive a little bit. Like, but in a small city, you can sometime you can find nice apartment in small city like 100 dollar.
US dollars?
Yes.
Okay, you got me thinking. Maybe I
On the
that'd be a nice
the
maybe
big
it's time to
city.
take a vacation.
Yeah. The big city like sometime like 200
Mm,
to 300 a month.
US dollars.
Yeah, US dollar. Yeah.
Okay. Oh no, I'm serious. You got me thinking. I've never been to Morocco. I've
Yeah,
been I've been
it's
to
it,
Spain, the neighbor to the north. I've never been to Morocco, but you really got me
yeah,
thinking.
it's a nice country. You can go.
Okay. All right. Okay. No, I'm having this fantasy of this like Moroccan vacation now. So, but I have to teach class. Okay. I'm looking outside at the snow and ice out the window, and I've Fatima has just put this image of. Okay, never mind. Let's hear from somebody else. Freya, did you want to share? I think you had your hand up, or maybe not. Let's hear from somebody else. Let's get another situation in another country. What is it like renting an apartment in another country? Freya, go ahead.
In my country, teacher is cheaper than here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think is in
And
my country is
DR,
very
right? The
yes
DR?
in DR
Okay.
in the Dominican Republic. I think it's common in my country. The people has their own house,
Mm.
and but now the new generations maybe don't, and is or depend in what street or what neighborhood neighborhood you live, because if you live in the city is expensive, because it's continue cheaper than here, because here is crazy the rent teacher. In my country maybe you can pay every month $500 for a big apartment in the city, maybe. But here, maybe you can pay that, maybe in a room. Yes, in the bedroom.
Which city are you from, may I ask?
I am in the capital.
Oh, Santo Domingo, okay.
Yes, Santo Domingo.
All right.
But
I might actually start looking at on Santo
Santo Domingo.
I'm really actually thinking of like, okay, look, maybe the DR.
But in Punta Cana, because it's good, it's expensive, it's like here.
Oh,
maybe
okay.
Punta Cana.
More expensive than the capital city.
Yes, because it's
interesting.
the three people.
I gotcha. Sorry, I'm bouncing around there. Sorry, totally different lesson there. All right. Anyway, good stuff. Let's get, so we got Morocco, we got DR. And Anila, can you tell us about Pakistan? And then maybe Doris, you've lived in 3 countries in your life, right? Anyway, Anila, tell us about Pakistan. What's renting
Yeah,
like in Pakistan?
it's cheaper, teacher. It's from here. Over there, I think in Pakistan, there is very beautiful houses, open, but much better from here. You know, here is like a little small apartment. We can rent it, you know, a lot of money. But over there, we can rent just around $200, $100 calculated to the euro rupees. So I think in Pakistan there is a lot of good houses to rent it, but mostly over there the people they have their own, like in our community we have our own houses,
Well,
like
what
own
about
land.
the process? Like if I want to rent an apartment, say I'm in a big city, like I go to Islamabad and I want to rent
Yes,
an apartment. Do I go online to something like
the
a
same.
Craigslist and a Zillow?
No, I
What do I
think
do?
they will use right now, like there is a lot of things coming up, but mostly we can go to the real estate agents, and
Oh,
they
wow.
show
Okay.
us the houses, and we can, but the paperwork all things the same. They
Are
have the
people
security deposit, they
okay?
have the lease and
Do,
all the rights.
do people have access to information online the way we do in America? Like,
Yes.
or do you have to go to the agent to give you the information?
No, both ways we can
Okay.
do it right now. Yeah, right now in the computer we can do it, or we can go nearby the real estate.
Hmm.
So both ways they use it. Like same here. We can go either like to the agent, like somewhere there is all around offices.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't in this country. Well, I'm just talking about, I'm speaking for America. Like in, say, 20 years ago in the early 2000s, if you wanted to rent an apartment, you had to be very dependent on information that your friends had or a real estate agent had. Even though people still had the internet, not everything was posted online. You would go to Craigslist and think, oh, there's one thing, and that's about it. Otherwise, you would go to an agency and hope they had information for you. Now you can get the same exact information as a real estate agent, and then you just, when you need them to help draw a contract, you call them. I'm wondering if it's similar elsewhere.
Uh,
Yulia, or I'm just calling
teacher,
random names. Who wants to share?
and teacher, I have something to add. Like
Yes.
here in USA,
Mhm.
the people now, if you want to rent apartment, the owner look in your credit record.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something new. You cannot rent apartment without this. In Morocco, no. Just
Okay.
doesn't matter if you work, if you're not.
I am so glad you mentioned that. So the credit rating system is a very American experience.
Yeah.
So yes, if you don't have a credit history in the US, maybe you have a good job and maybe you have some money, but if you don't have a credit history in the American system, with the 3 credit rating agencies, it's really hard here. But Morocco, there's nothing equivalent to
No,
the
no, no,
credit
they're not
system.
looking. Yeah, they're not looking in your job or something.
Okay, I have this fantasy again. You're like telling me $100 I can get this nice place, and they're not even going to give me a credit check. Okay, all right.
Just if you,
Why am I staying
teacher,
here?
just
Okay.
if you wanna go, just if you wanna go, just ask me. I will help you to find
Okay,
everything.
all right. I might take you up on that. I might take you up on that. Yulia, go
Yeah, yeah,
ahead.
of course. It's my pleasure. Yeah, that's okay.
All right. Oh yeah, Yulia, you wanted to share? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to tell you the same rules around in the Ukraine. It's very
Mhm.
easier. You need have passport and
Mm.
money for rent. That's it, and you can come, choose your house and pay. It's very easy. But
Interesting.
about money, I think live in Ukraine or rent in Ukraine apartment. It's not cheaper than here. If before a war, but after it's like cheaper. But
Hmm.
you can to choose very good apartment with a swimming pool, with gym, with like near to the lake or something very good for healthy.
Mm.
Yeah.
I have a question, Yulia. Since
Yeah.
the war has, like, in the past year, the war has traveled. It started out just like on the border of Russia, and then, you know, went and then traveled. When once from has the real estate market affected different cities? Like, say, let's say the first week of the war, you have an invasion in Kharkiv, and it's very scary, and everybody's living underground. I imagine
Yeah.
6 months later, the city is back to normal, kind of like those cities on the border. Do people still sign contracts and say, "Oh yeah, I'll rent this apartment for 1 year. Here's a contract," or has that changed the way people do business?
Many apartments is like broken, and
Right.
if you live in house who broken, you must leave. Nobody to help you because many people doesn't have a house.
Mm.
But if you rent and you have a normal apartment, you can live. You can live here. Nobody can say no. You can't live.
Okay. Very
You pay
interesting.
for this.
Which city are you from in the Ukraine?
Vinnytsia, it's near to Kiev.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah,
Let's
you're
see.
welcome.
Let's get one more story. So we've been to Pakistan, to Morocco, to the Dominican Republic, and the Ukraine. Let's get one more story. Who's rented an apartment in a different country we haven't heard about yet?
Me.
Go for it,
I
Gracie.
rent an apartment in South Korea, and they have an option interesting, different.
Mhm.
In my case, you can rent and pay every month, like every country, but you can also make a kind of interchange.
Hmm.
You can get provide a amount of money to the owner, and you can live in their apartment. For me, my company paid $30,000 for 2 years. And when I finish my time, they gave me my money back. If I stop the contract, how I did, I stopped my contract in 14 months, and
Mhm.
I pay a penalty for that.
Right.
Just
Okay.
that.
Yeah. I understand. I
But
kind of
you can
understand what
live,
you mean.
if you have money, you can, it's a kind of loan. You give your money to the owner, they spend the money, right? And then you live in their house for 1 year, 2 years as a contract. And when you finish your contract, they give your money back.
So you had a job in South Korea, and your
Mhm.
company paid for the apartment, correct?
Yes, pay
Okay.
$30,000.
Okay.
And then when I finish my contract, the owner of the house returned the money to us because he was working with that money, you know?
Hold on a second. Do you mean dollars, or do you mean the KRW, the Korean
Yes.
money?
Mhm.
Okay, just making sure. It's not 30,000 US dollars. You're talking
Yes,
about their
was
money.
to,
Okay, I was just making sure. I was like, this must be a really nice apartment. Okay.
no,
So
no, was
So,
30,000
Korean won,
US dollar.
Korean won. So it's the
No,
KRW, Korean won.
no,
That's okay.
no Korean one, no Korean one. Was
Wait,
dollar
dollars?
because
USD?
yes,
Are you serious?
yes, but they received their money back.
Okay.
You know how it's
Oh,
a kind of
okay.
it's
Okay,
like
then
when
that's where I'm gonna underline this word. That
yes,
sounds like a deposit. That's not rent. That's a deposit. So
it's a
here's
kind of
some money,
deposit.
and if something
Yes.
happens, if Gracie lights the if Gracie is cooking and lights the building on fire, you keep it.
No,
So that's
because
a
you
security
usually
deposit.
to have an insurance, but It's a kind of
Okay.
business. If I give you $30,000, you spend my money in 2 years. You are doing business with my money, right?
Well,
You are,
I'm trying to clarify. This sounds like if they got the money back, this sounds like a deposit, like they get to hold it for a while. And then
yes,
okay,
deposit.
that's a deposit.
Yes, then they
Okay.
return the money.
Okay, yeah, that would count as a deposit. That wouldn't count as the rent. So
Yes.
that's the rent is what it costs for you to live there a month, and the company was paying.
But I
Right.
didn't pay, I didn't have to pay more money every month. It's just that.
It was part of your contract to work, right?
Yes, but
Okay,
it's
yeah.
normal for them.
I've had a few teaching jobs like that. It's part of the package. Maybe you get a lower salary, but you get the free apartment. So it's kind of included. Do this job in this place and we provide you the apartment, that kind of thing. Was that what type of job, if you don't mind me asking?
What?
What type of work were you doing in South Korea?
I was working for as connection. I was coordinating an activity from my country in South Korea.
Mm.
And I was traveling between Korea and Dominican for 14 months and that kind of.
Very nice. All right. So I'm going to actually go over some vocabulary now. So this is good. We've got a nice mix of situations. Good. Security deposit. Who could, based on what Gracie and I were saying, who could identify a security deposit? What is that?
It's about the money, the same price than the house than you rent. You need to pay 1 month for the house and the mental rent. I think is it.
Usually it's 1 month's rent is the security deposit in this country.
Excuse me.
But
I think so.
3 months.
Wait, finish, Doris. What were we saying?
Oh, in Brazil, you need to put 2 months deposit.
2 months in Brazil. Okay, interesting. Now, who else was joining in? I couldn't tell who that was.
I think so. I think so. Security deposit when you live maybe in the apartment, the house. Maybe you do the damage. The tenant can use the landlord. Yeah.
The landlord.
The landlord. Yeah, use the money when you have maybe you destroy something or you damage
Correct.
something when you live. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So you both got it. So that's interesting, Doris. If you want to rent a place in Brazil, they want 2 months security, not 1. That's very interesting.
For
that
students,
must make it harder to rent for a lot of people.
Because, sometimes you don't have because the students can go back in our country. You need a guarantee.
Oh, they do that so they want to know you don't leave. You want to stay the whole year.
Yes.
I get it. I see. So, or do they just do that for foreigners only? Do ordinary Brazilians have to pay 2 months security?
Yes, but sometimes you because Brazilian people have the another possibility to rent a house. But when you as a immigrant or another country, you need to pay more because you have to do a guarantee to don't leave the apartment. Or
interesting. Are there any there any pushback? Anyone find that it seems to be a bit I'm going to use a fancy word, xenophobic, like a little bit of discrimination against foreigners, but seems a bit unfair, but the world is not fair, as we know. So if you're a local Brazilian, you don't have to pay 2 months, but they will charge more money. They'll charge 2 months for the foreigners because they think a foreigner might disappear and never come back.
Yeah,
I get it. Let's see. So that's what a security deposit is. Here's another phrase. I'm going to underline it and then just raise your hand if you want to identify it. Oh, well, we know the landlord is the owner. We know the tenant is the renter. What does it mean to give advanced notice? This is a phrase. Raise your hand if you know what this means. Advanced notice. Anila, go for it.
It's teacher for the tenant when they leave
Mhm.
the place, so they have to write down the notice like 1 month before leaving.
Mhm.
It's said advance notice.
Right. So if you have, if you are going to break your lease in the contract early, it should be stated in the contract what the process is. If there's a penalty to pay or something like that. Whoops. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. All right. Who knows what this means? Dispute. What's a dispute? Let's hear from somebody else. I see Anthony, I see Veronica, I see Sandra, Viviana. Who could tell me what is a dispute? Gracie's got her hand up. Okay, Gracie, go for it.
I think it's a kind of conflict or something that they have to solve.
Yes, exactly. I'll give a hypothetical situation. Hypothetical means not real. In the beginning, I said, imagine Anila is renting from Fatima and their roof is leaking. Here is where a dispute comes in. Anila can say, hey, I pay you money, fix the roof. We're getting wet. It's cold, it's winter. And then Fatima's a smart businesswoman. She can say, do I pay all this money? Hey, that roof was just fine before you came in, Anila. I think one of your birds was flying around and poked a hole in the roof. I'm not paying for that. You pay. Work before you broke it, Anila. And that's where the dispute can come in. So a landlord might be obligated to pay, but they might say, oh, I didn't break it. You broke it, you pay. And then they look in the contract and say, it's not my fault. You're breaking my house, you pay. That's the dispute. I don't even know if that makes sense, breaking my house, but whatever. I don't sound like an English teacher when I say that. So that's where a dispute could be about anything. So let's see. Repairs, we went that. What does it mean? This might be a new word, deduct. What does it mean to deduct? Let's hear from somebody else. I need a sign of life from a few people. Anthony, are you there, my friend?
Good morning, teacher. Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Can you tell us what the word deduct means? Deduct, and here at the bottom.
Deduct.
Yeah.
I think is when you pay something. I'm not sure, teacher, the word that too.
That's perfect. Who can help Anthony? Let's get the conversation around. Who can help Anthony?
When the landlord give back your deposit and they deduct amounts of money about damage in their house.
Perfect, Sandra. Okay. Did everybody hear Sandra's example? Let's say, does anybody have an electric heater in their house? You turn on the heater and it's a little electric heater at the bottom.
Yes.
Quite common in this part of the country. Well, anyway, I hate those little things, but the heaters have these little metal grates. It's like almost like a barbecue grill on the floor. And the heat is coming from that. And if anybody has children look at those little things and they think, I would like to see, and they pick up their plastic toys and they say, I want to see what happens if I put my little Pokemon toy and my little Goku toy and all these little toys on top of that heater, and all those plastic toys melt And then they say, hey, landlord, call Fatima, owner of the building. Hey, Fatima, your heater's broken. And Fatima says, well, I don't know. I've never seen all this. I see a bunch of melted plastic inside this thing. You're going to have to pay to replace this. So what Fatima would have to do is say, here we go. I will get you a new heater because I don't want you to die in the winter. But the money for that heater will be deducted from the security deposit. If you paid like $1,500 for, I'm just making up numbers right now, $1,500, and it cost $600 to replace that machine, your security deposit, you will not get back the full amount. So when you leave, you finish the lease, you will only get back $900 of the security deposit. And that's what it means to deduct. The end. Okay. Who can tell me what it means to renew? Renew.
When something broke in your house, then you ask the owner to renew something like the oven or stuff. No?
Good guess, but no. That would be replace.
Is when
Replace,
you
oh,
The lease renew, teacher,
get the new contract.
New contract. Yes. Exactly.
or
Exactly. So
lease renewal.
right. So in this context, usually the word renew means, okay, contract ends. Would you like to stay one more year? Okay. Let's sign a new contract. That means to renew the lease. And usually the rent would go up a little bit, or if you have rent, or they might say, you know what, you're such a wonderful tenant. You pay rent on time. You never cause trouble. You can stay for, the same or whatever. And that usually wouldn't happen in Boston, but that's what it means. It means getting a new contract. And the contract itself, that's called the lease. Lease. Lease is a specific word for contracts involving renting apartments. Who could tell me what this phrase means? In writing. What is that?
Like teacher, you have to, if you give to the tenant or the landlord, so you have to write like on the paper notice.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it will be proof, yeah, for something.
Exactly. So many people don't have, in communities, people who have a hard time getting with no credit history, or people who are undocumented, very often these contracts are not in writing. These are verbal. It's very likely that many of you just rent, and it's an understanding. Here is, I will stay here. Every month I'll pay you this much money, and you agree and you shake hands. That's not in writing. So when you have a dispute, there's no piece of paper to look at. It's, hey, you said I could stay until March. No, I didn't. That's where if there is a dispute, it's very helpful to have something in writing. I think we've gone over all of the vocabulary. Does anybody have any questions about these vocabulary words? No questions? Yulia, you still got your hand up. You could just click the emoji button one more time. Let's move on. Okay, good job, good conversation, great warm up. Let's get into the activity. All right, so here is this new program I've recently learned. And the way I make my own slides for my lessons, these are pre-made, but I still teach these pre-made lessons. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the difference between making, I'll use pizza as a metaphor. If you ever make pizza at home, you flip the dough, you put your toppings on, you put your love and your care into that pizza, and then you say, you know what? I think I'm just going to go order a pizza down the street. I ordered you a lesson. Doesn't mean it's not a good lesson, but I didn't make this slide. This was made by a company called Burlington English. I will still teach it and put my heart and soul into it, but this lesson was made by somebody else. Doesn't mean it's not a good lesson. So here we go. Does anybody want to read the slide right here? Any volunteers for reading? Veronica,
Me.
go for it.
In this lesson, you are going to listen to a lawyer answers questions about tenants' rights. Then you are going to speak about dispute between a tenant and a landlord. You will
Excellent.
discuss tenants' rights, use critical thinking to help you make decisions.
Okay, everybody. So there's that vocabulary. You're going to listen to a dispute between a tenant and a landlord. Let's take a look. All right. So question number 1. I would like to ask one volunteer to answer this question. Anybody? I'll do the typing. What? Who can answer question 1?
Can I?
Go for it.
I will
Let your
try.
mouth.
Like, hello, how are you? Can you show me when you gonna show me the apartment, for
Okay.
example?
So what question
And
should you ask the landlord before you rent? I'm going to write down what you're saying. Hello,
when
how are you? When are you going to show me the apartment?
how many like rooms has?
Okay.
Some question like it is everything included, the heat and the gas
Ah, there's a word for that. It starts with a U. Who knows the word I'm about to type?
include.
Utility teacher?
Yes, utilities. So this is a good vocab word. I should have put on there, but it's not in this lesson. Utilities means like the heat, the water, all that stuff. Electricity, water, things like that. If they're not included, you get a separate bill. Okay. All right. Anything else?
It is good condition.
Is everything in good condition?
I think that's all.
Is everything in good condition? So, okay. Now I'm going to click show first answer. How much is the rent? What utilities are included? Okay.
It's so close.
Well, you got
But I have
one
a
of
lot
your
of questions.
questions was in there. They didn't say any hello and how are you? It's okay. You were much more polite than the computer. Good. Let's get another volunteer. Who would like to take number 2? What do landlords and tenants sometimes argue about? Anybody want to take this one?
Me, teacher.
Okay, go for it, Fertis.
I think it's about the lease.
Landlords and tenants argue about the lease. Yep. Okay.
I think teacher, it's any damage. Argue about any damage.
They also argue about
The
damages.
maybe is the apartment allowed dog?
They might argue about pets.
Yeah, pets. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. If something breaks, who should pay for the repair? All right, sure. And I think hypothetically, a lot of those other questions do come up. So, all right, we've got, whoop. 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Who wants to volunteer to take these 4? Anybody? And you could just, I'll read the question, then you just tell me A or B.
Me, teacher.
Okay, Monica. When Jerry, and if anybody wants to help Monica, go ahead. Monica, you need help from anybody, say, help me, and then we'll get other students to help you.
I need read.
Oh, sure, yeah. Go for it.
Teacher,
I'll
wait a minute,
underline it.
because-
You said you wanted to read or you want me to read? Either way is fine. You ready, Monica? Monica? Monica, are you there? I think Monica disappeared. Anybody else want to take this one? Number 1.
Me, teacher.
Okay, Viviana.
No, it's Franeri. But go ahead, Viviana.
Okay, I saw. Okay. Oh yeah, Viviana raised
I'm
her
sorry.
hand. Okay.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Viviana. All right. When
Okay,
Jerry,
when Jerry decided to rent the apartment, he and his landlord signed a lease. According to the list, the rent for apartment is $800 a month. I think that it's
$800 a month.
800. Thank you, teacher. $800 a month.
All right. So
I think that is
the
B.
word lease, what is this? B. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Bibiana, let's take number 2. Shauna.
Shauna and her landlord are having a dispute. Shauna wants her landlord to pay for some repairs, but he refused.
All right. So
I
what is the
think that
word
is
dispute?
A.
All right.
When
Okay.
Life moved out of the apartment, she left it in good condition. The landlord didn't even have to clean the apartment before renting it out again.
What's the definition of the phrase in good condition?
I think that is B.
Okay. And yeah,
Oleg's lease is
expiring.
Thank you. Oleg's lease is expiring next month. He'll need to find a new apartment.
So expiring in this context means what? A or B?
Is B.
Okay. Are you ready to see the answers, Viviana? This is very exciting.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay, good job. You got them all right. Nice. All right, new set of questions. Whoops. Who would like to, it's almost time for our break. Let's give somebody else a chance. Who wants to give this a shot?
Me, teacher.
Go for it, Fratis.
Veronica.
Oh, Veronica. Okay, and then let's do Fratis, then Veronica. Fratis had her hand up like this. Okay, Fratis, then Veronica. Okay.
Martina's lease ends on August 31. She wants to live there another year. So she will ask her landlord to renew the lease. Is B, sign a lease for another year.
Okay.
Sis?
Yeah,
Joe's landlord told him last week that she needs to enter the apartment to fix a leak. She gave him advance notice. So he wants he wasn't surprised when she came. Mm. Mm. I think it's A. The right person that something's
Okay.
going to happen in the
All right,
future.
are you ready?
I
I
think
think
it's
so.
They're correct. Tell the person what's going to happen in the future. B is tell a person something about that happened
yeah.
in the past. So advance notice means the future. This is actually one of the tenant's rights. So if you are renting an apartment, that space that you're renting while you're renting it is yours. So let's say you rent, let's say if Monica decides to rent an apartment to Anthony, and then one day Monica decides that her TV is broken, and she decides to go into the apartment that Anthony is paying rent for, and sit down and watch the playoff game next week between the between the Bengals and the Chiefs. And then Anthony comes in and says, "Hello, can I help you? Is something wrong?" And she's sitting on his couch watching his TV with her feet up on the coffee table. And then she says, "Hey, you know what? Sorry, Anthony, you're out of beer. I drank the last 2 in the fridge." This would be a violation of tenants' rights. So when you are renting, if the owner, even though they own it, if they're renting it out, it's not theirs to just walk into when they feel like it. They need to give advanced notice. That's it. Let's see. I think we are out. Yes, we're out of questions. Let's, what time is it? Okay, okay, here's the next section. The next section, we're going to listen to a lawyer. It's a recording of a lawyer discussing tenants' rights. And after we do, we'll stop at the listening exercise and I'll explain the homework. We've got, yeah, let's take our break right now. Okay, so we'll pick this up when we come back, going to the stopwatch. I'll see everybody in 10 minutes. Okay, so we've just come back from break. We're going to do a listening exercise. We are going to listen to a lawyer, and then I'll take a volunteer to answer these 2 questions. Everybody, make sure you are listening. Just because this will go for 3 minutes, don't walk away because we'll answer the questions afterwards. Here we go.
Welcome to Know the Law. My name is Lauren Cruz, and I'm a lawyer. Today, our topic is tenants' rights. Do you live in a rental apartment? Are you having a dispute with your landlord? If the answer is yes, and you have questions about your rights, give me a call. Okay, here's our first caller, Joe Bronsky. Hello.
Hi, I pay $1,500 a month in rent. My landlord just told me he's raising the rent to $1,650. Is he allowed to do that?
According to the law, your landlord can't raise the rent if you've signed a lease. He has to wait until the lease expires and it's time to renew it.
Oh, actually, I never signed a lease.
In that case, sorry, the landlord is allowed to raise your rent.
That can't be right. That's a lot of money.
Unfortunately, if there's no lease, landlords can raise the rent. But let me ask you, what state do you live in?
California.
In California, the landlord must give 30 days advance notice before he raises the rent. The advance notice has to be in writing. Does that help?
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Thanks for the information.
Take care, Joe, and good luck. Okay, next caller, Stella Johnson. Hi, Stella.
Hi. Here's my question. When I moved in, my landlord asked for a security deposit. She said she'd return it when I moved out. I moved out 2 weeks ago, and I got an email from her yesterday. She says she's keeping my money. Can she do that?
The law says that landlords must return security deposits to tenants after they move out. But it also says they can keep the money if they need to make repairs because of damage the tenant has caused to the apartment. They can also deduct money from the security deposit to cover cleaning costs, unpaid rent, or utilities.
But I left the apartment in good condition.
Did she explain if there were repairs and how much they cost? She's required by law to do that.
No, I'll call and ask. But what if she says I broke something when I didn't?
Okay, let's pretend she says you broke a window. You can send her a picture to prove the window wasn't broken when you left. Did you take pictures of the apartment right before you left?
No.
Well, it might be hard to get back your security deposit. It's smart to take pictures when you move in and before you move out to protect yourself. Did you hear that, listeners? Always take pictures in case you need them for evidence later. And know your rights.
All right, everybody, who would like to, Doris, would you like to volunteer to answer these two questions? I think you just had your hand up from earlier. Okay, let's get a volunteer. We have first question, what right does a tenant in California have? Who wants to take that question?
To be noticed 30 days before they raise the rent.
Okay, Andres says to be given 30 days notice before a rent increase. All right, you want to take the next one, Andres?
I raised my hands. I forgot to you.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure because I called on you, but then I thought you disappeared. Okay, go for it. Take number 2, Doris.
When you leave the apartment, you must to check all the things is good because
Oh, no. The number 2 is according to the law, what is the landlord allowed to do?
return security deposit after she moved out. But she didn't receive the
No. You're answering a different. You're telling the story, but you want to look at the question, number 2. So number 2 right there says, according to the law, what is the landlord allowed to do?
I don't know. I think I take a picture in.
Is that what you want me to write?
When she leaves the apartment, she check out the apartment and.
Okay, tell me what you want me to write.
She must to take a picture when she move in and move out to protect herself, and when she leaves, she needs to show I don't know, teacher.
Okay, all right, here we go. I'm gonna show all the answers now.
Okay.
Okay, for first one, Andres gave the answer. The right to receive advance notice about an increase in rent, the right to know why the landlord wants to keep the security deposit. So Andres, your answer was pretty sharp. So according in California, a tenant must be given 30 days notice before a rent increase, unless they are protected by a lease. And in this situation, who could tell me, did the tenant have a lease? Did the tenant sign a contract? Did the tenant have a lease?
No.
No, so there was
No.
no lease. But these are the tenant's rights. In the state of California, even if it's just a verbal agreement, the landlord must give 30 days notice. They can't say, give me more money today. They have to say, in 30 days, I'm raising your rent by law. So, so in the case where somebody does not have a lease and the landlord is raising their rent, the tenant needs to know, hey, you can raise my rent, but you got to tell me 30 days ahead of time. You can't raise my rent this week. You got to give me a month. So number two, according to the law, what is the landlord allowed to do? Now, Doris, I was telling you to read the question. What did you, what was the mistake you were making? You were talking about the landlord or the tenant? Which one?
The landlord, because
No,
no,
you were
tenant.
talking about the tenant, right? You were confusing
The
landlord and
tenant.
tenant.
He needs to yes, he needs to take a
So you were saying that she should move, she should take pictures before she moves in. That's the tenant, not the landlord. I knew what you meant to say the tenant. That's why I said, look at the question, look at the question. So the question is totally different than what you were answering. You were absolutely correct, but it was about something, something else. According to the law, what is the landlord allowed to do? And possible answers: raise the rent if there's no lease. Yes. If there's only a handshake agreement, verbal agreement, the landlord has the right to raise the rent whenever they want to, but they need to give 30 days notice. And they have the right to keep the security deposit if there is damage in an apartment. Okay, so I'm going to save exercises. I'm going to save exercises 5, 6, 7, and 8 for Thursday. We're going to finish this on Thursday. I think it's a good exercise. And now I'm going to go to our Google Classroom page and show you what I posted. And I gave everybody plenty of time. So do Thursday right here. All right, so do next week. Carlos and Hennessy's Florida Real Estate Scam. That's the title I gave this. Listen to this podcast and follow the instructions on the worksheet. Submit the worksheet when you have finished answering the questions. So that'll be due Thursday. Here's the Google document. You have 4 questions, and I say answer each question in complete sentences, 30 to 40 words each. And I leave a hyperlink in here to listen to the, it's a listening exercise and a reading at the same time. So first question, why were so many of the mansions empty? Second question, who did Carlos and Hennessy's recruit for the operation? 1 and 2. And 3 and 4 we'll get into in class after everyone's completed the assignment. So what is this story? There is a real estate scam. There's a young couple that have a clever idea about how to make a lot of money in southern Florida. So I'm gonna take a minute, and this is a collage telling the story, and it's from the Wall Street Journal. You can take a look at some of these images. We see a Bentley, a $100 bill, papers from court, items that are listed. Looks like very expensive items. This looks like a garage. This looks like a postcard, a map of Venezuela. What in the world is going on? All of these pieced together a very complicated story that we're going to learn about, and it's a very exciting story. It's a true. Anybody know this? What this means? True crime. True crime. So it's a real story. It's a crime story. It's about how a young couple committed some crimes and made a lot of money, but they got caught. So take a moment and just look at what's on the screen. And I'm going to invite you to Google these two names, Carlos Castañeda and Genesis Mortucielo. And Castañeda is listed as a defendant here in this court document. What are we looking at? What's the story here? Anybody want to try? I invite you to Google these names. Go for it, Anila. What do you think is happening?
Yeah, it's all these houses and mansion in the Florida. And one time in 2019, the Trump administrator, they make some law. Administration, they make some law for the Venezuelan, what we call it?
Venezuelans.
Venezuelans people, so they can. I didn't understand, teacher, like really about the law, but I thought it's about like they cannot come to Florida. Yeah, and they leave their houses like full of expensive things, and they could not come and see what happening in their houses.
Excellent. Good job, Anila. So Anila got a head start. So Anila had already taken a look at some of the material, and that's absolutely right. It wasn't all Venezuelan people, of course, because there's a huge Venezuelan community in Florida and in the Boston area as well. But President Trump did pass a law restricting individuals by name from coming into the country. Certain people were not allowed to come into the country. And as
there are a lot of politicians, teachers.
Yes.
They have the property owners.
Yes.
They are the owner of the property.
So a lot of people from the Venezuelan government had invested in mansions, really nice places in South Florida. But President Trump issued an executive order banning these people from entering the country. So you had all of these very expensive homes in various locations empty. And we're going to learn that some of these people were actually in prison and they couldn't visit. So there's all these empty houses with lots of expensive things inside them.
In my country, if someone like go to the prison and has an empty house, the government take off the house from the people.
That's called a seizure.
Seizure, yes. Now,
seizure.
No? In America, no?
No, it does happen. It does. The government can take your home, but in these cases, that did not happen. Okay. It can happen, and it does happen. But in this particular cases, they just remained empty. And some people, not all people were in prison. Some people were just not allowed to come into the country. So totally different. Okay, so I think that's a good context. So there's a bunch of, based on what Anila said, we have a situation. Certain people, powerful people from the Venezuelan government were not allowed to access their properties with all these fancy cars and nice things inside. And there's a bunch of empty homes in South Florida. So let's take a look at what happens. I'm going to go back to Google Classroom and show you how to access the material that I gave you. So to complete the assignment, you fill out the worksheet, and when you're done, you check for spelling and grammar mistakes and press submit. Everybody understands that. But I want to show you how to use this tool. So this is a podcast. You can listen to it while you exercise, while you cook, while you're driving in the car, but it's complicated and there's lots of new words. So what I suggest is this: listen while you read, or listen 5 minutes at a time, because like I said last week, the whole story is almost 20 minutes. What I said last week is chunk it 5 minutes at a time. Pace out your day. So between now and Thursday, think, where do I have 5 minutes to listen here? Where do I have 5 minutes to listen there? And start thinking about it. And I'm going to give you more vocabulary to help out. So you can also slow it down. Right here it says, if I want to make it faster or slower, I can do half speed.
Oil executive's wife.
So that's extra slow. If at any point you want to slow it down, you can. This is 0.75.
This Venezuelan former executive owns a luxury apartment.
So I'm going to turn on the closed captions right here so everybody can see. Right here, captions. Okay. Whoop. Everybody can see the closed captions. You should be given a suggestion to enable your closed captions. Here we go. Show captions. Okay, I've turned the closed captions on.
She was posing as the former oil executive's wife.
So you can listen and read. And I've just turned the closed captions on this screen. All right. So there we go. Now I'm going to bring it up to regular speed. Okay. We'll start right here. And we'll just listen to the beginning.
In June 2019, a woman with a Venezuelan passport walked into a lawyer's office in Boca Raton, Florida. Here's our colleague Conrad Poutier.
So this woman, according to the passports, is married to this former Venezuelan state oil executive who's been accused of all sorts of corruption and taking bribes, and was indicted in the US and actually pleaded guilty.
But the woman's passport was fake. She was posing as the former oil executive's wife.
This Venezuelan former executive owns a luxury apartment in one of the most exclusive apartment buildings in the Miami area. And she's here at this lawyer's office to take out a $3.5 million mortgage.
Like, I own the property, give me a loan here.
Yeah. She just walks in, says, here's my passports. I own this apartment. My name's on the deed. Then they sit down, go over the document, sign everything.
And less than an hour later,
this woman walks out $3.5 million richer.
She got the loan. And it was just the beginning of a year-long crime spree, totaling nearly $10 million.
All right. So that's the introduction to the story. Based on what we've just listened to, who could give me the scenario? What's the situation? How is this working? How are they able to take money based on these empty apartments?
Teacher, they showed them just the passport and they just sell the property.
Pretty
The
close.
fake passport, yeah.
Not exactly selling it, but doing something a little trickier. The woman's passport was fake. She was posing as a former oil executive's wife. What does that mean?
Because she was not the owner.
Yes. They're pretending to be these owners. Exactly. Does everybody understand? So understand or not, we're moving along with the class. The lesson is going to be whether or not you understand, whether or not you've walked away from your screens, I'm going to keep teaching this lesson because it's too good. So I'm going to do a little scaffolding with vocabulary now. All right. So on the left-hand side, I've got 3 new words and I'm going to give them to you. Here we are. And then I'll put all these vocabulary words in the WhatsApp group for you to study on your own. Okay, follow me with the pronunciation. Everybody, listen and repeat. Indicted.
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 Very good. Pleaded.
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 Mortgage.
Mortgage.
Victim.
Victim.
Excellent. Sanctions.
Sanctions.
Recruit.
Recruit.
Inspection.
Inspection.
All right, now that's how these words are pronounced. You're going to hear them used in context. And I'm going to give you all of these vocabulary words to study on your own in a separate screenshot right now. Here we go. Okay, take a look. You're going to get all these vocabulary words sent to you in the WhatsApp group. Here you go. Vocabulary for homework. Okay, everyone, there you go. I'll go over that second column on Thursday. Now, we're going to listen to 6 minutes worth, and you're going to hear some of these new vocabulary words. Then I will break you up into 2 breakout rooms, and I'll ask you to tackle 2 questions. So, all right, the first breakout room will have the first question. First question, why were so many of the mansions empty? And the answer is kind of already discussed, but you're going to get a better understanding soon. Next question, who did Carlos and Hennessy's recruit for the operation? So there is the word recruit, and you'll get, even if you don't know the word now, you'll get it in a minute by inferring it in context. So those are the two questions to start. Okay, we're going to listen to the first 6 to 7 minutes, then I'm going to put you into 2 breakout rooms. Why were there so many of the mansions empty? Who did Carlos and Hennessy's recruit for the operation? Let's go back to the story. Picking up where we left off.
Their victims, they own these incredibly valuable homes and cars in Miami, but they can't physically be in Miami for various reasons. So these people can't actually go to their...
And less than an hour later,
this woman walks out $3.5 million richer.
She got the loan. And it was just the beginning of a year-long crime spree, totaling nearly $10 million.
Their victims, they own these incredibly valuable homes and cars in Miami, but they can't physically be in Miami for various reasons. So these people can't actually go to their houses, and they have no idea in many cases what's going on at these properties. And these people basically decided, wow, those are the perfect targets for us.
Welcome to The Journal, our show about money, business, and power. I'm Ryan Knudsen. It's Wednesday, October 19th. Coming up on the show, how a Miami couple stole millions of dollars using Florida's empty mansions and penthouses, and how they eventually got caught.
Who do you trust for career advice? I'm Erin Delmore, host of the As We Work podcast from the Wall Street Journal.
Familiar with the case. To piece together this story, Conrad and our colleague Will Parker spent months reporting. They combed through hundreds of court documents, police reports, and emails, and interviewed dozens of people familiar with the case.
So the main characters in this story are a young couple, Genesis Martusiello, who's currently 29 years old, and her then boyfriend, Carlos Castañeda, who's now 35. They're both from Venezuela.
Castañeda came to the U.S. in 2014. Genesis Martusiello arrived a couple years later.
And they both fled a country that was in a severe economic crisis, which many in the country and abroad blamed in part on the country's authoritarian government and the policies it pursued. And so this crisis led to this mass exodus. Genesis and Carlos were part of that wave. They both ended up in Florida, in a country that was far wealthier than anything they'd ever known, hoping for a better life.
Tell me about this couple. Who are they and how did they meet?
We don't know a lot about Carlos. He wouldn't respond to us. He wouldn't talk to us. Genesis, she's also from modest means. She grew up in a middle-class family in the city of Barquisimeto in northwest Venezuela. She moves to South Florida in 2016. She does all sorts of odd jobs in Florida to make ends meet. She works as a model at car shows. She works as an Uber and Lyft driver for a while. She works in bars as a bartender. And so at one of those shifts at a bar, she meets Castañeda. And they fall in love and pretty quickly move in together. And after they move in together, Carlos approaches her with this idea.
The idea was to steal from rich Venezuelans who owned property in Florida. And pivotal to this scheme was a decision the Trump administration made in 2019.
Today we are announcing additional sanctions against the repressive regime, targeting Maduro's inner circle and close advisors.
The Trump administration cracked down on the Venezuelan government and put a bunch of people with ties to the Venezuelan government under sanctions. And what that basically meant is that there are all these rich people, some of them government officials themselves, who own luxury real estate in Florida, who are now under sanctions and can't come to South Florida anymore. They can't keep an eye on their houses. They're just empty. And their garages were full of Ferraris and Bentleys and Rolls Royces. And they basically decided, wow, those are the perfect targets for us because we hate the Venezuelan government that we blame for the poverty in our home country. These people are rich. We're not rich. Why don't we just have a go at it?
Castañeda's idea was to impersonate the owners of these properties and take out mortgages against them. Normally, this sort of thing would be very difficult. Most banks do thorough background checks and ask for tons of documents. But in Florida, there's a loophole.
In South Florida, there is this world of hard money lenders that basically cater to often foreign owners of high-end apartments and mansions.
Hard money lenders charge high interest rates to people who want to take out loans against the value of their real estate. Unlike banks, though, these hard money lenders aren't required to ask for many documents. And because these loans can be quite lucrative, they often don't. In some cases, all a person needs is a passport matching the name on a deed. But to pull it off, Castañeda and Martusiello needed help.
So there's a number of young women, most of them Venezuelan immigrants, that they recruit to help them with it. For each property where they take out a fake mortgage, they recruit a young woman that basically looks similar to the actual owner of the unit, right? To actually do the impersonating at the loan closing, right? To walk into the lawyer's office, hand over the passport and say, this is my apartment, I'd like a mortgage.
But before they could get the mortgage, there was one more step.
Okay, that's all I'm going play for you right now. So yes, I was right. 6 minutes, 46 seconds. And the first two questions have been revealed. So if you are listening close, you can figure it out. And I'm going to put you into 2 breakout rooms. So first question, why were so many of the mansions empty? That's number 1. Second question, who did Carlos and Hennessy's recruit for the operation? That's what was just revealed. Now I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. Breakout room number 1, you've got question number 1, why were so many mansions empty? Breakout room number 2, who did Carlos and Hennessy's recruit for the operation? They had to hire other people to work with them. Okay, breakout room time. Here we go. If you see number 1, you've got question 1. If you see number 2, you've got question 2. Okay, join your breakout rooms now.